Welcome back to another exciting episode of Gallica Kills Everything, your #1 rated daily Metropolis weather program where Gallica kills everything. We're back out here on assignment, Frozen Mogo again tonight, and it looks like we've got our remote correspondent Gallica out, and she's giving Vice a try too. Now, this is the new hotness for bounties, so if you want to run this one with the team, get on good old LFG. Somebody will be asking for spams. You don't have to do this one by yourself. If you do want to do it by yourself, I'm going to head over to the PvP phase, and that made it impossible because there's just no one there. Well, let's get into it then. So, Vice is an angry Red Lantern with a head that looks like a giant carnivorous insect of some sort. I'm not sure exactly who in his family tree is a beetle, but we don't want to know. He is absolutely terrifying. He is probably one of the most iconic Red Lantern designs, and he is definitely aggressive as shit. His fighting style is a little limited. He does have some basic range attacks that he will use, and if you get close enough to him for him to do a melee attack, he does have a heavy uppercut that he does with his giant pincer-shaped head, which will toss you into the air and deal a tremendous amount of damage. Stay the hell away from him to keep that from happening. His abilities are fairly basic, but also fairly damaging. He does have that telegraphed cone, which will result in him vomiting an ocean of blood on you. That does a 6 digits of damage per tick. You want to stay the hell away from there. If you see him do that, roll away immediately. His other most common attack is probably that stun. He'll lock you in a red hard light construct and then hit you with an orbital. You have to break out of that manually in order to go away from there, and you do want to do that because orbitals hurt. His third attack is going to be that little closer contained AoE that he has. More of that burning blood vomit. So roll away from him and you won't take any more damage from that. That one's fairly simple to address. And then he does have a basic multi-hit projectile attack that I've really never seen connect with anything. I don't know if it hurts or not, but it's really easy to avoid, I think is what I'm getting at here. So do with that information what you will. Vice does have one other ability that we mentioned in the first video, and we're going to mention it again here. Vice has every fucking Red Lantern in the sector on speed dial. They will all show up for this fight at some point in time or another, with the exception of famous ones like Bleeze and Atrocitus. I guess they just don't want that smoke. What this means for you is that he's going to have 2 different types of groups of ads that he can summon. One's going to be a relatively weak, relatively self-contained group of 4. These guys are all pushovers. You can kill them inside of a few attacks. They only have about 2 million health apiece. They don't do a lot of damage. They're easy to get rid of. Go ahead and get them off the battlefield. But if you miss 1 or 2 of them, don't worry too much about it, because your AoE damage will clean them up. The other group, which we're dealing with right now, as you can see, even though the videos are fast forward, they're still on the screen right now. That's because they take a tremendous amount of damage apiece to kill. They all have different attacks, including their own AoE attacks, like that blood vomit, and specialized weapon attacks. And on top of that, there's 8 of them. That's a lot of incoming damage at the time. So if you see him summon the group of 8, you want to target away from him and start dealing with them immediately. A mix of AoE and single target is recommended for your build here inside of the situation, and I do recommend that you have a relatively decent mitigation figured out already. This is not an entry-level bounty. This is the new hotness for the area, so he does have a slightly higher CR than what your entry CR will be. He's looking at about 506 right now, so that's going to be a little more powerful than you are if you're just coming in from the previous content. If you need a group, again, plenty of people riding this one on the bounty train and the spam train right now. Hop on LFG. Somebody will be more than happy to help you out and get you facilitated there. If you want to try it solo, though, it's a hell of a ride. Now, We covered most of the mechanics of this bounty already inside of the other video, and that's a pretty good recap for where we're at right now. So let's talk about what's going on behind the scenes between the two tanks. This overall execution took about 22 minutes, whereas Gallica's version only took about 17. Now, that's about a 5-minute time difference, which isn't huge, but it is significant. You know, it's 25% essentially. What accounts for this difference? Well, that's a good question. So, Gallica here is a AoE specialized might-based fire tank. Pretty much everything she does is engendered to keep her mobile. It's engendered to hit multiple targets at the same time. It's not engendered to hit at long range. She does have very limited range on some of her attacks, but because it's a combination of basic fire abilities that already provide healing over time and damage-based healing whenever they hit, absorb heat, for example, whenever it hits, it heals you. Stoke flames, it does a burning DOT to the enemies around you, sets up the burning and power interaction. That way your absorbed heat does a little more damage, but it also gives you healing over time. She generally has more basic survivability as a result of that, even though both tanks are also using the Red Tornado molecule, which functionally turns all of your attacks into heals, 15% at 200. So anything you throw out there, 15% of that's coming back towards you as a heal. Now, why does this look different on these two tanks? Well, Fire has a lot more chain multi-hit abilities, like they are a channeled specialist, whereas Ice, while it's also a channeled specialist, is more engendered towards larger single-hit attacks or larger output attacks. Now, the wonderful thing about both of these tanks is they are incredibly mobile. Ice and Fire are the two original mobile channeled powers. They share that in common with munitions. If you ever seen munitions in action, you know Muni guys don't ever stop throughout the course of the fight. That's kind of true here with Gallica's build as well. We've got that magma pull and stoke flames for the setup. They both do a burning power interaction, and they set up a DOT plus stoke flames gets that HOT. Using them together, clipping from the magma pull into stoke flames gives her the ability to start moving again almost immediately. She is using Luminous Beam for that large single million damage pop, which speaks for itself. You can't get better than that. But her other three attacks, the Shadow Blast, the Absorb Heat, and the Flame Blast, all give her the ability to move constantly while she's using those attacks. Therefore, she can stay mobile, she can reposition, she can respond to mechanics on the fly, as opposed to having to pause in between her attacks and roll out of the way, getting stuck inside of a channeled animation, getting nailed by things or other things like that. That means she doesn't have to spend as much time on shielding or recovery, because her recovery is already built into all of her attacks, and her shielding is usually reserved mostly for situations where her robot sidekick dies, just to facilitate getting that back up into play immediately. Gallica has a lot of similar action going on, but is a little more limited in that her attacks are mostly large damage single hit attacks, so she does rely a little bit more on her shields. This does make her damage output higher, but it also means that she's not doing quite as much from the standpoint of recovery. At any rate, we're at the end of the fight. Just a reminder, 8 marks for the reward. You also get a reward box that will contain gear and other things, and there are countdown feats associated with this. Good fight. Good night.